Okay, so this is an example of how to use the decimal format class to format numeric output. So I have a class set up here called DecimalFormat Example, and inside my main method, I've declared a couple variables and then printed out their values. So I have a variable called pay right here, which will store a worker's pay, and I have a variable called tax, which I have assigned a value of 0.3332. The next thing I do is assign a value to pay. So this person is getting paid $11.11 an hour, which is not very much. And then I print out that the user you make pay per hour and that your tax rate is, and then the rate of tax. So when I run this, this is the output that I'm going to get. It's not very nice because this number doesn't look like money and this number doesn't look like a percentage because it's a decimal. So we're going to use the decimal format class to make those numbers look a little bit nicer. The first thing we need to do is import decimal format, and imports always go right above our class definition. So we're going to import java.text.decimal format with capitals. So there's our import statement. Right now it's underlined in yellow because that means it's saying, hey, you've imported this, but you haven't used it anywhere. Are you sure you need it? But we're going to use it right now. So after I declare pay and tax, I'm going to declare another variable, and the type of this variable is decimal format. So that's my data type, decimal format. I'm going to give the variable a name, and I'm going to name it money. And I'm going to assign it to a new decimal format. So I'm going to activate now the constructor within the decimal format class, and that constructor is looking for a string. And that string is going to describe the pattern that the formatting object called money should apply to my numbers. So this is going to describe what I want my output to look like. So in the case of money, I'm going to want a $sign on the left-hand side. And let's say for now that's it. I'll leave it at $sign. To apply this format to my variable pay here, what I do is I type money.format. So I'm telling the money object to call the format method, and I'm passing it the pay variable. And all this does is it returns a string with the formatting applied to this number. And so let's run it and see what sort of output we get. There we go. So you can see it's added the $sign and it's rounded my 11.115 down to 11. If I change this to a 5, so we've got a bit of a raise, and I run it, it should round it up to 12. So you see the decimal format class is doing a little bit of work in the background for us, doing some rounding. Let's say this person gets a really big raise, and now they make $11,000 an hour. So there's my output, and it's still rounding, but what I'd really like is a comma separator there between the thousands to make it a bit easier to read. So to do that, I'm going to add a couple of symbols into our formatting string here. I'm going to add a number sign, and then a comma, and then a number sign, and a number sign, and then a 0. So in the formatting string, the number signs and the zeros here, these represent number columns. So we got the ones column, the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands. If the thing in my formatting string is a 0, that number column will always be printed out. So I'm telling my formatting object to always print out the ones column. If the thing in the formatting string is a number sign, that means that that number column will only be printed out if there's a value there. So let's try this out. So I'm going to keep my pay at $11,000, and I'm going to run it. So you can see that it added a comma there. So let's say I change this back to my original 11. I shouldn't get any output in the hundreds column or the thousands column because I've used number sign in there. So let's run it, and I don't. Also, for money, because we use tenths and hundredths for cents, I want to display those two number columns as well. So I'm going to add a .00. So the cents will always be displayed, whether they're there or not. So you can see 11.52, so it's rounded my 5 up. If I change this to just a straight 11 with no cents and run it, my formatting object will still display those two number columns because I've used zeros there, and zeros always get printed out. So this formatting string right here is a pretty good one to always use for formatting money. So I'm just going to add a little remark here. What I've done here is I've created a monetary format. Okay, so we're pretty good there with our pay rate, but the percentage of tax doesn't look very good. So let's go ahead and create a percentage format. So I'm going to make a new decimal format, another decimal format object, and I'm going to call this %. And I'm going to set it equal to a new decimal format. So again, I'm activating a constructor in the decimal format class. Class is just the data type. And the formatting string I'm going to pass here, it will contain a %sign. So let's just leave it at that. And let's apply our % format to our tax rate and see what happens. So this is it without the formatting. And then if I run it, there it is with the formatting. So you can see it's changed from a decimal into a percentage. And it's now at 33%. So it looks pretty good. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to figure out which number columns I want to display. So in this case, I'm going to make this my formatting string. So always display the tenths and the ones column, and only display the tens column if there's something there. So in this case, it's adding that first decimal place there. If I change this to, let's say, 0.03, it shouldn't show the tens column, and it doesn't. So the final thing about decimal format here is that it will start to repeat the pattern. So what I mean by that, let's say we raise our pay to $11 million. This comma separator will be applied to the millions as well. So it starts to repeat this pattern that we've given it. Yeah, and that's it. That's how we use decimal.